Hello everybody and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite mid-weight games. That said, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at all my various social media pages as well as my Patreon page. On all of those you'll be able to interact with myself and my channel in all sorts of fun and interesting ways. Moving right into it though, mid-weight games, these are games that will take generally about an hour to an hour and a half to play. You have to think a little bit about them but not too hard, and it's just a good balance between taking the time to play, getting the actual gaming experience and all that kind of stuff. It's a fairly common thing that we see, but it's not something I've really talked about a whole lot on my channel. That said, please let me know what you guys think about this. How do you define a mid-weight game? What are your personal favorites, and what do you think about mine? You guys know I love to hear from you. Please put any and all thoughts into the comments below, and with that, we're going to get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got Shadows over Camelot. This is a game that I've talked about a decent amount, but not too much. The nice thing about this is that it is a cooperative game with a traitor mechanic. So potentially you have somebody who is actively or slightly actively working against the group. It takes place in the Arthurian Legends style. You are playing as the Knights of the Round Table, and you're just trying to achieve goals of various sorts, whether that's getting the Holy Grail, fighting the Black Knight, finding Lancelot's armor, all this kind of stuff. You're going on different quests. I love this game because it involves a lot of table interaction. I love it because it's a good solid co-op, and it's just a good game. It's relatively easy to explain, and it's fairly simple, but that's why it's a little bit lower on this list. You can get a lot of help from your fellow players because it is cooperative, and it's just it's a decent game, but it's one that can wear out relatively quickly. Shadows over Camelot overall though, my number 5. At number 4, I've got Puerto Rico. Classic worker placement slash role picking slash resource management. A little bit of everything in this one. And again, a very staple hobby game that we see fairly frequently in a lot of different videos and lists and all sorts of different stuff. The idea behind this is that you pick your role. Everybody gets to do some kind of action. Often you get to go first, so you get an advantage. And you're trying to produce various grains. You're trying to build buildings. You have your workers that you have to separate out to make sure that you can actually do certain actions, all this kind of stuff. You're playing for victory points, you're playing for coins, and it's just a well-designed, well-done game. It's a little bit lower on this list though, simply because it is a bit older and it hasn't been updated a whole lot. Most people would argue that it doesn't really need an update. San Juan is a game that's loosely based off of this, and it's still good, but overall, I like Puerto Rico as a midweight game. It's something that most people already know how to play, so you don't even have to teach it, which is kind of nice. It takes up a good amount of time, and it's just generally fun to play, and people appreciate the strategic value for it. Puerto Rico, my number 4. At number 3, I've got Cytosis. This is a little bit of a cheat because I did help make this game, but at the same time, it's still a well-done worker placement game, and that's really all it boils down to. This is based off of cell biology, which is my field of study, and so that's why I'm obviously very biased to it, but it's very similar to Lords of Waterdeep, if you all are familiar with that, where you have your workers and you're gathering resources and then spending those resources to fulfill cards. In this case, you're trying to build certain components of the cells, as opposed to actually going on quests like you do in Lords of Waterdeep. But that said, it's a well-done mechanic. It's very well balanced. A lot of work went into that. And the nice thing is that the theme doesn't bog down the game. So even if you're not familiar with cell biology or how these things work, there is still at its core a good worker placement mechanic-based game here that you shouldn't have any problem playing if you're familiar with worker placement, and you should still enjoy regardless of the science. Cytosis, my number 3. At number 2, I've got Azul, a new addition to my collection that is a tile drafting game where you are trying to fill out a space that will with some tiles that will give you points every single time you do it. You play through round by round by round. Everybody takes same color tiles from individual sections, and then you put the rest into the center. It's a very simple game to play. It's a lot of fun. I did a review on it if you guys are curious. But that said, it is arguably one of the most perfect middleweight games that I've ever found, because you can learn it within about 5 minutes. And then you can play it within about 45 minutes to an hour. So it is an excellent medium weight game. It looks absolutely gorgeous. The pieces are extremely high quality, and it is just a really fun game that most people honestly don't have any issues with and have a very good time with. In addition, you get some replay value because you have the boards that you can flip over, so you can change up a little bit what the pattern is that you're going to end up making, potentially allowing you to get some more points or change how your points are able to be gathered throughout the time. But that said, Azul, great game, lots of fun, and my number 2. At number 1, probably is no surprise to most of you, we have Cosmic Encounter, my favorite game of all time and also my favorite midweight game. The idea of this game is everybody has an asymmetric alien power that breaks the rules in some way, and the idea is that you're going after and you're attacking your opponents to try to get foreign colonies. It involves a hefty amount of negotiation, alliance making and breaking. You've got, are you going to play card X or card Y? Are you going to be able to trade? But in the end, you are trying to get foreign colonies on your opponent's star systems. It's a good midweight game, but I do recommend that you keep the game relatively small if you're playing with newbies especially. Don't go all out and add in a whole bunch of expansion mechanics and cards and all that kind of stuff. Keep it to the base and maybe one expansion with the Defender rewards, just so that you have a little bit of spice, but this is a game that's really easy to sort of overdose on, especially if you're a newbie. But that said, I always have a ton of fun with this. There's a great amount of table interaction and table talk, and it's just always been a hit with me. And again, it's my favorite game of all time, so no surprise that it is my number 1 midweight game. Well folks, that's going to be it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite midweight games. Again, these are ones that are good for an FLGS game night. They're good for something that's relatively impromptu. Take about 45 minutes, maybe up to an hour and a half or so. You can learn them relatively quickly, and you still feel like you had an actual quote-unquote game experience. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with my personal choices, but as always, I'm curious what you guys have to say. What are your favorite midweight games? Why do you think of them as midweight? How do you define it? All of that kind of stuff. You guys know I love to hear from you. But that said, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.